Giboin. Giboin, one of the most fun to say names in all of spirits. I'm trying to think of like other names that are as fun to say as that, like Moni Musk, maybe. But this is certainly up there. If there's better, like I can't think of it. Let's talk about Giboin. So I'm doing this video really for two reasons. One is to kind of aware you of this particular brand because I think it's worth your attention. And the other is to aware my Chicago peeps of the Charles Neal Selections portfolio. Charles Neal is one of the OGs of importing nerdy French yak into the U.S. I think pretty much everything he does is like smaller producers, a lot of family producers. And because it's probably as far back as Heavenly Spirits, maybe a handful of others that are that old. And it was really hard to get his stuff in Chicago for a while. There were a few like Bella Haute, but not a whole lot. And they've recently just kind of dropped all at once. So this is to aware you that they're out there. There are a lot of them, and they're probably worth your attention. A lot of them are really good. I'll probably be doing more of these on the channel momentarily. But for today, let's do Giboin. Okay, so I have got their kind of standard entry-level release. We will talk about this in a second, and also a vintage release. This is not in the US. This is from a European retailer, so you can't get it unless you're in Europe or have access to European retailers. But I expect American vintage releases to kind of roll out pretty darn soon. All right, so what is the deal with these guys that makes them special? Part of it is just that they're a small family producer. I think they're a grower producer too, which is generally good in especially in cognac, but really sort of more widely in French brandy. It means you're going to be paying less money typically, and it tends to mean you're going to get better presentation and better quality for what you're paying for. The other fun thing about these folks is that they are based in the Borderies. They do Borderies Cognac, and so a little review of cognac terroir. The most famous regions for growing grapes in cognac are the Grand Champagne and Petit Champagne regions, which make these kind of big, burly distillates that are usually built for aging. Then on the far outside, you have the Bois region, which makes sort of much easier going, fruitier distillates that meant for drinking younger, generally. And then right by the city of Cognac, you have the Borderies, which tend to produce a very delicate and very floral kind of style. And that is really much beloved of the nerds, more so than anyone else. And that's what these folks do. They are Borderies producers. All right, so I am darn excited. Let's stick our noses into these and see what's what. All right, this first one, this is their just marked Borderies. It is a 5 to 8 year old, although it doesn't say that on the bottle. And distilled on lees. This is lot L 2020, so I'm imagining it was bottled in 2020. 43% alcohol by volume. This is only about $50, so certainly not cheap, but by the standards of entry-level cognac, that ain't bad. Let's see what we got here. Actually, very peachy. There's some kind of nectarine going on. Kind of dark, actually. I don't know if you can see this, but to my eye, at least, the younger bottling is darker in color than the older one, which is kind of interesting. Yeah, just lots of orchard fruit. Peaches, nectarines, a little lychee fruit, actually. Some, like, fresh field flowers, but it's, the fruit is a nose ahead of the flowers on this. And then some more traditional kind of cognac-y notes. Some caramel, some raisinets. Just to remind you, hey, you're drinking a cognac, pal. some white pepper, some kind of, and then some woody notes that are kind of hard to pin down. Because it doesn't smell like really overt French oak. It smells kind of like, it doesn't really smell like traditional rancio either. It smells like you kind of found an old desk or like an old cabinet or something, and you kind of like opened one of the drawers and stuck your head in. I don't know if this note connects with anything. That's kind of what this smells like. It's smelling an old cabinet drawer. Take some peaches, take some nectarines, take some raisinets, take a couple of flowers, throw them in the drawer, and smell it. That's kind of what this smells like. I mean, you could accuse this of being a little bit young and simple, but it's lovely. It's certainly scratching my my Borderies itch. All right, let's see what happens on the palate. Here we go. Ooh. That has a transition. I mean, it starts out like very delicate and just beautiful. And then by the end, it just shanks you. Like there's so much grip and tannic on the back end of this. Let me try this again. Ooh. Yeah, this is a trickster. Like this will trick you into thinking, hey, like don't worry about me. I'm a softie, and then it just cuts your head off, man. Okay, let me try to get some tasting notes on the table. So arriving very much on like kind of cinnamon sticks, ginger snaps, actually. There's fruit here, but it's more like almost dried peach than fresh peach. Golden raisins, a little clove, some fresh flowers on the front end, and then it just snaps on you, and you get like black pepper, spicy old wood, that overstewed English breakfast tea note just kind of goes wild. Ooh. Ugh. Every time, Jesus. It's like I'm just thinking, oh, this is great. This is, and then it just and it's like talking to a ballerina and she just like pulls out a battle axe. Like that's but I'm kind of digging it. I don't know, I feel like there's a lot of folks out there, probably not folks watching this video, but a lot of folks who would find this a little bit baroque for an entry-level cognac. But I'm kind of digging this. What I'm going to do is add a little bit of water, because what I want to see is if this kind of integrates itself a little bit more, because right now it's a little Janus-faced. And what I want to see is a little bit more coordination between like the beauty and the beast, if you like. All right, so while I'm waiting for that to come around, we shall move on to this again. Giboin, 1997. Cognac Cru de Borderies, François Giboin. And this is, it doesn't say, but I imagine this is a single barrel because there's only 302 bottles. Taken out of barrel on June 21st, 2022. Unfiltered and bottled at 45.7%. Again, this is a European retailer thing. So depending on the math on this, roughly 24 years old. Let's see what we got. Ooh. And by the way, this was not especially expensive either. So pay attention to your old cognacs, especially from family producers. It's a lot of the same notes. It's like peaches, nectarines, a little pear actually, some raisins, lychee fruits again. The flowers are here, but it's more subtle. It's more it's more like almost rose water, or even like Turkish delight, than it is like just field flowers. I'm getting a lot of that same, uh, cabinet drawer, dresser drawer, desk drawer kind of thing. But now there's like a little, like there's like a leather book inside, like an old leather tome. Um, a little ginger, a little white pepper. I don't know. I know this is a lot of the same notes, but there's just feels like there's so much more depth on this, and so much more like everything kind of working together. It is actually more fruity on the nose than the previous one. It's very delicate. It's very subtle. It's very borderies. All right, let's see what happens in the palate. Here we go. So this is kind of what I'm hoping the entry level Borderies turns into. This is just as grippy as that was, but it's just much more refined about it. There's so much more kind of integration. It doesn't feel like I'm being hit by a tannin truck. Notes on the table: peaches, nectarines, pear. But this time they're kind of matched by they're kind of matching and integrated with the pepper and the kind of old wood tannins. Oh, this is nice. Clove, cinnamon, cardamom, allspice. Really a lot of kind of chai notes in this. Lots of dusty old wood, leather, kind of a ginger beer note a little bit. Not ginger snaps. This is more ginger beer. Yeah, dusty old wood, leather. Yeah, I like this. It feels both. How do I put it? I gotta find a way to say this that doesn't sound like what I said about the last one. It's light but it's also really grippy. But you can tell on the front end that it's grippy. Like the second this hits your mouth, you can tell the substance of it, and it still feels. And even when the tannins and the pepper start to hit on the back end, it still feels delicate. This in a way that this doesn't. Am I still speaking English? Are we real? What's happening? Oh, that's just really well built. Okay, I'm gonna give this a squirt. I'll come back to it. A couple more drops. That was a kind of wimpy squirt. Okay. This is a good episode. I've been just kind of a little bit let down by cognacs in previous videos, and it feels like these are kind of stepping up a little bit. Now we have to see what happens with this entry level Borderies, right? Because what I'm hoping will happen is integration between the two sides of this thing, but we shall see. Okay, it's developed, but not really in the way I was expecting it to. It's almost like the peachy stuff has gone sour. So I'm like now nosing like just perfect underripe peach, which is fun. It's great. It's again, it's not what I expected. There's the flowers are also kind of peeking out. A little more caramel now. Okay, it's developed at least on the nose, and that's what I like to see. Let's see what happens on the palate. Yeah. So water doesn't really bring out the fruit any further. It's still but what it does is it kind of cleans up the palate. It no longer feels like I'm being hit by a tannin truck. It feels like a little bit more like the second glass. It feels more like it's there's integration of that power all the way through. Yeah, this improves with water. Actually, there's a fun kind of mineral note coming out now, almost like a soapstone kind of note that's integrating with the wood. and kind of, it just feels like it's sort of doing a soapy massage of my mouth. This is nice. I like this. It's not rocking my world, but you could do a lot worse for $50 in cognac. Fun. The tricky thing about this is thinking of a role for it. It doesn't really feel like an easygoing sipper in the way that this thing does, anyways. But I don't know if it would work as a mixer. I'm sure you could make sidecars and stuff out of this, but it doesn't. It almost feels like it's being underutilized in that kind of role. Yeah, I don't know about this. It's interesting. 83 points, though. 83 points. Definitely worth a look and worth your consideration. And let's move on to the back to the 97. Here we go on the palate, or on the nose. I'm sorry. Long morning. The fruit turns up a notch with water. Otherwise, there's not a whole lot more change. There's maybe a little bit more ginger as well. It's just a good nose. It's a delightful kind of old, but not too old and oaky cognac nose. It smells like Borderies. I mean, I'm going to stick with that. It smells like the Borderies. And on the palate, so what this is, it's just a terrific, classically built cognac. It is hugely dry on the back end. There's a very, very, very long, dusty, kind of slightly floral finish on this. But the fruit in this balances out beautifully. Yeah, so the mouthfeel takes a step up with water. There's a little more flowers to this too. Oh God, this is nice. I'm just drinking this. I'm straight up drinking this. I really like this bottle. I'm gonna give this 88 points. It's an easier recommendation than the basic Borderies. I mean, it should be, right? This is an inexpensive 24-year-old spirit, right? But still, really, I feel like either of these, if you see them out in the wild, are worth a look. But the Giboin 97 in particular, yeah, this is just good. And that's what I got. That's all I got. 83 plus for the basic, and for the 97, 88 points. Yeah, small family producer cognac is a thing you should be paying attention to. It's out there, and keep an eye on it. Thanks for watching, and cheers.